There are many small industries here, and I suppose tourism is the biggest source of income.
What if the most elegant woman in Hollywood left behind a secret list? A list naming her 5 favorite films. A list supposedly written just before she died. It's the kind of headline that stops you mid-scroll. It's dramatic, it's irresistible, and it's completely unverified. Grace Kelly never published a top 5 list. She never ranked her movies. She never sat down and declared, "These are my favorites." But she did leave behind clues. Real quotes, real interviews, real reflections on the roles that shaped her short, brilliant career. And those clues tell a much more interesting story than any viral list ever could. So today we're doing something better than repeating clickbait. We're reconstructing the truth. We're exploring 5 landmark films that meant something to Grace Kelly. 5 films tied to her own words, her own experiences, her own transformation from stage actress to Hitchcock muse, to Academy Award winner, to Princess of Monaco. Each section moves fast. Each moment reveals something new. And each film shows a different Grace Kelly. The quiet beginner, the adventurer, the student, the Oscar winner, the icon. Before we begin, which Grace Kelly performance would you guess was her favorite? Drop your prediction now, and let's see if you're right. Number 5, High Noon, 1952. Grace Kelly stepped into Hollywood almost overnight. But High Noon was the film that tested her. It pushed her. It exposed her fears. And it revealed something she rarely admitted.
But you're doing it just the same. Oh, Will, we were married just a few minutes ago.
Grace Kelly did not feel ready. She was 22 years old, still new, still learning, still trying to understand what it meant to be a film actress. Not a stage actress, not a model, but a performer under a camera's microscope. And in High Noon, that microscope was intense. She played Amy Fowler Kane, the young bride who pleads with Marshal Will Kane, played by the legendary Gary Cooper, to abandon the town before danger arrives. It's a deceptively simple role. Quiet, reserved, built on stillness. But Grace later confessed that she thought her own performance was stiff and wooden. She believed she looked inexperienced, unsure, even uncomfortable. But here's the twist. Director Fred Zinnemann disagreed completely. Zinnemann said her inexperience helped the character. Amy was supposed to be new to the world, new to conflict, new to marriage, new to fear. Grace's fragile nervousness, her subtle stiffness, her wide-eyed hesitation, all of it matched Amy perfectly. Every moment felt real because she was real. And Grace learned something on that set that changed her career forever. Gary Cooper taught her the art of understatement. He told her, "Relax, let the camera do the work." That single lesson shaped the rest of her filmography. You can see it in Dial M for Murder. You can see it in Rear Window. You can see it in The Country Girl. Grace Kelly didn't act big. She acted small. And the camera magnified every slight tremor, every breath, every controlled emotion. But what motivates a young actress to rise this fast? In a 1955 NBC interview, she joked that her early rise was sheer luck. She said she was very, very grateful for landing big roles so quickly. She said she just kept showing up at the right time. But the truth is more complicated. Grace Kelly didn't succeed because of luck. She succeeded because she listened, she studied, she adjusted. And she absorbed every lesson from Cooper, Zinnemann, and the experienced actors around her. High Noon wasn't her favorite film. It wasn't the project she cherished most. But it was the one that shaped the actress she eventually became. And here's a fun detail for your viewers. Kelly entered the film almost as an unknown. But after High Noon, the industry started whispering her name. People noticed the poise, the restraint, the elegance, the potential. And without High Noon, it's unlikely she would have been chosen for her next major roles. The ones that turned her into a fashion icon, a Hitchcock muse, and eventually an Oscar winner. Do you agree with director Fred Zinnemann that Grace Kelly's quiet, restrained performance actually helped the film? Or would you have preferred a more expressive version of Amy Kane? Let me know in the comments. I'm curious what you think. Number 4, Mogambo, 1953. If High Noon was Grace Kelly's first major step, Mogambo was her leap into the wild. This wasn't a studio backlot. This wasn't New York theater. This was Africa, the real Africa. Heat, dust, wildlife, long days, unpredictable weather, and a director known for being as tough as the terrain around him, John Ford. Grace Kelly later joked she accepted the role for 3 reasons: John Ford, Clark Gable, and a free trip to Africa. That's it. Not the script, not the character, not the story, the adventure. And honestly, who can blame her? At 23, Grace Kelly found herself acting opposite the king of Hollywood, Clark Gable, with Ava Gardner stealing scenes next to her. It was a triangle made for tabloid headlines, and it earned Kelly her first Oscar nomination.
Well, with my husband almost well again, I had it in mind to take a little walk, sort of get one's bearings.
Proving she could stand in a film with 2 of the biggest personalities in Hollywood and still shine with her own quiet radiance. But here's what makes Mogambo fascinating. Grace wasn't playing a glamorous socialite or a femme fatale. She wasn't wearing Edith head gowns or Hitchcock chic silhouettes. She was playing Linda Nordley, the shy married woman drawn into romantic danger. And in that setting, surrounded by lions, rivers, and roaring thunderstorms, something about Grace Kelly changed. She fell in love with traveling. In a 1955 interview, she spoke about filming across continents: Africa, France, South America, London. She said she adored seeing the world, and Mogambo gave her her first true taste of international adventure. It opened her eyes to life beyond Hollywood, planting the seeds for the world-traveling princess she would later become. And let's be honest, the behind-the-scenes stories are just as dramatic as the film itself. John Ford was notoriously tough. He intimidated everyone, even stars. But Grace Kelly? She handled him with calm professionalism. Ford reportedly admired her discipline. She showed up prepared, focused, and unshaken by his temper. In a way, shooting in Africa was her real acting school. When you're surrounded by Ava Gardner's fiery presence and Ford's volcanic personality, you either crumble or you grow. And Grace grew. Her performance is subtle, almost fragile, but that vulnerability is exactly what earned her so much praise. Critics said she brought emotional honesty to a role that could have felt thin. Ford himself appreciated her balance of innocence and curiosity. But here's the secret reason Mogambo is important in Grace Kelly's story. It's the film that proved she wasn't just a pretty face. She was serious, she was committed, and she could hold her own on location, under pressure, and opposite legends. Without Mogambo, it's unlikely Hitchcock would have noticed her. And without Hitchcock, we may never have gotten Rear Window, Dial M for Murder, or To Catch a Thief. This African adventure was the bridge between promising newcomer and Hollywood leading lady. Number 3, Dial M for Murder, 1954. Grace Kelly entered Africa as a rising star. She returned to Hollywood, a name on Alfred Hitchcock's radar. And that is how she stepped into Dial M for Murder, the film that became her first true masterclass in screen acting.
Mark, I know you think it's silly, but when you get to know Tony, you'll understand why I said that.
Hitchcock wasn't just a director. He was an engineer, a strategist, someone who approached tension like a watchmaker building a time bomb. And Grace Kelly, only 24 years old, walked straight into his world. In Dial M for Murder, she plays Margot Wendis, elegant, calm, refined, and marked for murder. Her husband plots her death, her lover becomes entangled, and every scene tightens like a noose. But here's what's remarkable. Grace Kelly learned an entirely new kind of acting on this film. She later said Hitchcock taught her one of the strangest and most brilliant lessons she ever received. Murder scenes should be shot like love scenes, and love scenes like murder scenes. That line is pure Hitchcock. And Grace absorbed it instantly. It changed her entire approach. She stopped projecting like a stage performer. She stopped relying on theatrical gestures. Instead, she did what Hitchcock demanded. Make the camera come to you. Not the other way around. She became still, controlled, precise, letting micro-expressions do the heavy lifting. The result? A performance that remains one of the most chilling and sophisticated in 1950s suspense cinema. But there was something else happening behind the scenes. Something subtle, but important. Hitchcock was calm, almost eerily calm. While the cast worked through long dialogue scenes and choreography-heavy murder suspense, Hitchcock was already mentally deep into his next film. Grace noticed it. She later said he seemed peacefully detached, as though his mind had already moved on to Rear Window. That serenity, that focus, left an impression on her. It taught her what real professional confidence looks like. The confidence of someone so in control of their craft that they never have to raise their voice. And then there was the wardrobe. Grace Kelly always understood fashion, but Dial M for Murder transformed clothes into storytelling. Costume designer Edith Head and Hitchcock built Margot's entire emotional arc around outfits, from soft pastels early on to darker tones as the danger closes in. Kelly once said, "Every small detail of a single piece of wardrobe becomes another thread in the developmental texture of my character." That's not the quote of a glamour star. That's the quote of a serious actor building a character from the ground up. And the strangling scene? The iconic moment where Margot fights off her attacker? Hitchcock filmed it like a dance. Rehearsed, rhythmic, intimate. Grace Kelly knew exactly how to hit every mark, every gasp, every desperate reach for the scissors. It remains one of the most famous murder scenes in classic cinema, not because it's violent, but because it's elegant. Mogambo proved she could act under pressure, but Dial M for Murder proved she could act with Hitchcock. And not just survive, but shine. Do you think Hitchcock pushed Kelly to become a better actress? Or do you think she was already great when he found her? Tell me your take. Number 2, The Country Girl, 1954. Grace Kelly was already Hollywood's cool, elegant rising star, but The Country Girl changed everything. It didn't just earn her an Oscar, it shattered the world's idea of who she was.
I'm just a girl from the country. The theater and the people in it have always been a complete mystery to me.
Up until 1954, audiences knew her as the refined beauty, the perfect Hitchcock blonde, the poised socialite. But the country girl demanded something else, something raw, tired, wounded. And Grace didn't just rise to the challenge, she transformed. In the film, she plays Georgie Elgin, the wife of a broken, alcoholic singer played by Bing Crosby. She's dowdy, nervous, protectively fierce. This was so far from her glamorous image that people doubted she could pull it off. But Grace Kelly disappeared inside the role. The gowns were gone, the jewels were gone, the elegance stripped away. What remained was pure acting. Director George Seaton said he saw the emotion behind her eyes, the quiet strength, the exhaustion, the years of disappointment. Grace understood Georgie. She understood the pain of holding someone else's life together while your own falls apart. And she delivered it with minimalism, subtle gestures, silent heartbreak. Critics were stunned. Audiences were stunned. Even the studio was stunned. And then came Oscar night. Grace Kelly arrived wearing a pale green Edith Head gown. Not the flashy statement people expected, but something understated, nervous, hopeful. When her name was announced as Best Actress, beating Judy Garland's monumental performance in A Star is Born, the room gasped. Grace walked to the stage with her signature grace, accepted the award, and then something unexpected happened. She went back to her hotel room, alone, Oscar in hand. And she later described that walk back as the loneliest moment of my life. Think about that. The highest honor in Hollywood. The moment every actor dreams about. And she felt alone. No parties, no champagne, just silence in a Bel Air hotel room. Why? Because success wasn't the answer for her. Grace Kelly wasn't chasing trophies. She was chasing meaning. In her work, in her characters, in her life. And here's the twist. Even after winning the Oscar, she told journalist Maurice Zolotow that she had no intention of slowing down. She said she was reading a dozen different scripts, that she was never going to give up acting, that she had so much more she wanted to do. And within a year, she was gone. Not gone forever, but gone from Hollywood. A real-life fairy tale swept her away. Monaco, royalty, family, responsibility. And suddenly, the country girl became her unexpected final statement as a dramatic actress. Looking back, the film doesn't just show her range. It shows what she could have become. A heavyweight dramatic performer. A leading lady with depth and grit. Someone capable of shedding her entire image to tell the truth. The Country Girl isn't just one of her greatest performances. It's the moment that revealed Grace Kelly's emotional core. Do you think Grace Kelly's Oscar win was deserved? Or do you think Judy Garland should have taken it that year? Tell me in the comments. Number 1. Rear Window, 1954. If The Country Girl showed Grace Kelly's depth, Rear Window showed her power. This is the film that cemented her legend. The elegance, the intelligence, the spark behind the eyes. Alfred Hitchcock once said that Grace could do anything on a movie set, and Rear Window is the clearest proof.
Sitting around looking out of the window to kill time is one thing, but doing it the way you are with binoculars and...
She plays Lisa Fremont, the poised, stylish socialite who loves James Stewart's injured photographer. At first glance, she's everything Grace Kelly was in the public imagination. Refined, immaculate, perfect. But Hitchcock never let characters stay on the surface, and neither did she. Every time Lisa steps into Jeff's apartment, she changes the room. Every time she looks at him, the dynamic shifts. And every time she moves across that tiny set, she reveals something new. Hitchcock treated wardrobe as storytelling. Grace embraced that completely. With costume designer Edith Head, she turned fashion into character development. Judith Quine later recalled Grace's words, "Every small detail of a single piece of wardrobe becomes another thread in the developmental texture of my character." That's why Lisa Fremont doesn't just wear clothes. She communicates with them. The iconic black and white dress in her first scene signals sophistication. The emerald evening gown signals romance. The simple blouse and slacks later in the film signal transformation. She's no longer the spectator. She's ready to take action. Grace Kelly understood something vital. Clothes can show who a character was and who she's becoming. And Lisa Fremont becomes bold, curious, fearless. In the first half of the movie, Jeff accuses her of being too frivolous for his rough, adventurous lifestyle. But in the second half, she's the one who sneaks into the neighbor's apartment. She's the one who risks everything to prove Jeff's theory. She's the one who goes from glamorous visitor to unlikely detective. Kelly's performance evolves without ever breaking the character's core. She stays elegant, but her elegance becomes courage. She stays refined, but her refinement becomes strategy. She stays soft-spoken, but her silence becomes focus. And that's the magic of Grace Kelly's acting. She never overplays. She never reaches. She lets the camera discover the truth. But here's the twist critics still debate. Some historians like Molly Haskell argued that Lisa might still be chic and vacuous, that Grace's performance doesn't fully escape the confines of glamour. Others counter that her bravery, quick thinking, and emotional intelligence make her one of Hitchcock's most progressive heroines. Which side is right? Maybe both. Because Lisa Fremont represents something deeper, the tension between appearance and capability, between how people see you and what you're actually capable of. And Grace Kelly loved roles like that. Roles that asked for subtle shifts. Roles that hid steel beneath softness. Roles that let her act through expression, through stillness, through small choices. Rear Window became her signature film not just because it's a masterpiece, but because it captured the essence of Grace Kelly. Poised, intelligent, quietly daring. This wasn't just Hitchcock's vision. It wasn't just Stewart's performance. It was her screen presence holding the film together. And every moment she's in the frame, you can't look anywhere else. Would you sneak into a neighbor's apartment to uncover the truth like Lisa does? Or would you stay by the window and watch from a safe distance? Tell me in the comments. I'm curious which side you fall on. Grace Kelly never left behind a neatly written list of her 5 favorite films. No final interview, no secret ranking, no dramatic goodbye statement. And yet, when you follow her own words, her own reflections, and the memories of the people who worked beside her, a clearer picture emerges than any viral headline could ever offer. She grew through each role, learning quiet confidence from Gary Cooper in High Noon, chasing adventure across continents in Mogambo, studying the psychology of suspense under Alfred Hitchcock in Dial M for Murder, transforming herself completely, body, voice, and spirit, to win an Oscar in The Country Girl. and redefining screen elegance with every step she took in Rear Window. These weren't just films, they were turning points, lessons, moments that shaped her into the Grace Kelly the world still adores. And maybe that's the truth missing from the myth. It's not about choosing 5 favorites. It's about the journey those 5 films represent. The rise of a young actress who became a global icon, then walked away at her peak to follow a new kind of destiny. So now it's your turn. Which Grace Kelly performance stays with you, and why? Drop your thoughts below, and let's celebrate her legacy together. Thanks for watching, and stay curious about the stories behind the legends.